The silence of deep space was shattered by the emergency klaxons aboard the TDF Intrepid. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's viewport, her weathered face illuminated by the distant stars and the ominous red warning lights. The Celtri attack had come without warning, just as their intelligence suggested it would. Multiple contacts emerging from quantum space. Admiral. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice carried across the bridge, steady despite the tension. Counting 15. No, 20 Celtri warships. They're using a new configuration we haven't seen before. Sarah's jaw tightened. The Terran Defense Force had been preparing for this moment for the past 3 years, ever since the first Celtri scout ships had been detected at the edge of human space. But preparation was one thing, reality was another entirely. Launch all fighters, she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 15 years of command experience. Begin evacuation procedures for the Epsilon colony, and get me a direct line to Fleet Command. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as orders were relayed and executed. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as squadrons of Terra's newest Raptor-class fighters streamed from the Intrepid's launch bays, their plasma drives leaving blue trails against the darkness of space. The Celtri ships were unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Their biomechanical vessels seemed to pulse with an inner light, organic curves melding seamlessly with crystalline structures that defied conventional engineering. They were beautiful in their own alien way and absolutely lethal. Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the Celtri fleet, Science Officer Dr. Y. Park reported, his fingers dancing across his holographic interface. They're not matching any previous encounters. The quantum resonance patterns are evolving. Before Sarah could respond, the space between the two fleets lit up with a brilliant display of energy weapons. The Celtri had opened fire, but something was different. Their weapons seemed to adapt mid-flight, changing frequency and composition to bypass the TDF's shields. Multiple direct hits reported across the fleet. Rodriguez called out, "The Valiant and Defender are reporting critical damage. Our shields, they're not just penetrating them, they're learning from them." Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't just an attack, it was a test. The Celtri were probing their defenses, adapting their weapons in real time. Everything they'd learned about the alien species suggested they were technological scavengers, incorporating the best aspects of defeated enemies into their own arsenal. But this level of adaptation was unprecedented. New contact. The sensor operator's voice cracked with surprise. Massive quantum rupture forming at bearing 045 Mark 120. The space behind the Celtri fleet suddenly twisted, reality itself seeming to fold in on itself. Through the distortion emerged a vessel unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It was enormous, easily dwarfing both the human and Celtri ships, its surface a seamless blend of impossible geometries that seemed to hurt the eyes if viewed too directly. "We're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer Lisa Chang announced, her voice filled with wonder. It's in perfect standard English." "Put it through," Sarah ordered, her heart pounding in her chest. The voice that filled the bridge was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It carried with it an age and wisdom that made Sarah's spine tingle. "We are the Aetherians," the voice announced. "We have watched and waited long enough. The Celtri threat must be contained, but not through destruction. We offer you a choice, children of Earth. Join us in understanding what drives them, or continue this path of mutual annihilation." Before Sarah could respond, her tactical display lit up with new warnings. The Celtri fleet was turning, their formation shifting to face the new arrival. But instead of attacking, they seemed to be communicating. "Admiral," Dr. Park's voice was barely a whisper. "The quantum signatures, they're harmonizing. The Celtri ships are synchronizing with the Aetherian vessel's energy pattern." Sarah Chen had made countless decisions in her career, each one carrying the weight of lives and consequences. But as she stood on her bridge, watching the impossible unfold before her, she knew this moment would define not just her future, but humanity's place in the galaxy. The war they had prepared for was about to become something else entirely. The question was, what role would humanity play in what was to come? The meeting chamber aboard the Aetherian vessel defied human comprehension. Admiral Chen stood alongside her small delegation, trying to maintain her composure as she gazed at walls that seemed to breathe with living light. The Aetherian representative, who had introduced itself as Nexus, appeared as a shifting column of iridescent energy that somehow managed to convey both power and serenity. More disconcerting was the Celtri representative. Unlike the biomechanical ships they commanded, the Celtri themselves were crystalline beings, their translucent forms refracting light in complex patterns that Dr. Park had theorized might be a form of communication. "Your species stands at a crossroads," Nexus began, its thoughts manifesting directly in their minds. "The conflict you perceive is but a shadow of a greater truth." The Celtri representative, designated as Unity through conflict, pulsed with patterns of deep purple and amber. Somehow, perhaps through Aetherian technology, its meaning became clear to the human delegation. "We do not seek destruction," the patterns conveyed. "We seek evolution. Each battle, each technological exchange, brings us closer to perfection. This is our purpose." Sarah fought to keep her diplomatic composure, but anger colored her words. "Tell that to the colonies you've destroyed, the lives you've taken. How can evolution justify genocide?" The chamber filled with a resonance that felt like ancient wisdom and infinite patience. "This is why we have intervened," Nexus explained. "The Celtri's drive for perfection through conflict and humanity's resilience through innovation. Both are needed for what is to come." Dr. Park stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. "What exactly is coming? And why reveal this to us now?" The answer came in a cascade of images and sensations that nearly overwhelmed their human minds. They saw vast dark spaces between galaxies, filled with something that defied description, a hunger that consumed light itself. They witnessed civilizations far more advanced than humanity being systematically erased from existence. The void consciousness, Nexus named it. It has consumed 12 galaxies in the last million years. It approaches our galaxy now, and none of us alone can stop it. Unity through conflict pulsed with urgent patterns. Our evolution through conflict was preparation. Each species we encountered, each technology we absorbed, strengthened us for this ultimate challenge. But we have reached the limits of what force alone can achieve. Sarah's tactical mind began to grasp the implications. And humanity. What role do we play in this grand plan of yours? Your species possesses something unique, Nexus revealed. A capacity for lateral thinking, for finding solutions where none seem possible. The Celtri perfect existing technologies, but humans create what has never existed before. The chamber's walls rippled with new patterns as Nexus continued. "We propose an alliance. The Aetherians will provide our knowledge of the cosmos and the fundamental forces that shape it. The Celtri will share their adaptive technologies and their perfect understanding of conflict. And humanity. We will innovate," Sarah finished the thought. "Find new ways to combine these elements, create strategies and technologies no one has conceived of before." Unity through conflict's crystalline form shimmered with what Sarah somehow knew was agreement. "Our attacks on your colonies were wrong," it communicated. "We understood only the path of conflict. The Aetherians have shown us another way." Dr. Park's hands were already moving across his tablet, mind racing with possibilities. The Celtri's adaptive technology combined with our quantum research, and with Aetherian knowledge of space-time manipulation. "But trust won't come easily," Sarah stated firmly. "Our people have suffered. They'll need more than words and promises." "Then let us show you," Nexus proposed. "There is a void scout at the edge of your solar system. Together, we can demonstrate the power of our alliance and the true nature of the threat we face." As Sarah looked at her fellow humans, then at their former enemies and new allies, she realized that history would remember this moment. not as the day humanity surrendered or compromised, but as the day they rose to become something greater than they had ever imagined. The war they had feared had become something else entirely, the forging of the galaxy's last, best hope for survival. The research facility on Europa hummed with activity, its vast underground chambers filled with a strange mix of human, Celtri, and Aetherian technology. Dr. Park stood before a holographic display that showed the latest test results of their hybrid weapons system, his eyes reflecting the dancing lights of quantum calculations. "The integration is still unstable," he muttered, more to himself than to the Celtri scientist beside him. The crystalline being, which had chosen the name synthesis through innovation, pulsed with patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as frustration. "Your quantum formulae are unpredictable," synthesis communicated. "They defy our normal processes of adaptation." Sarah Chen, now fleet commander of the Joint Forces, watched from an observation platform above. The past 3 months had been a crash course in interspecies cooperation, with all the friction and breakthroughs that implied. The Void Scout they defeated at the edge of the solar system had proven the potential of their alliance, but also shown how far they had to go. "Commander," the Aetherian coordinator Nexus manifested beside her, its energy form slightly dimmed to avoid overwhelming human sensors. "Your scientists continue to surprise us. This approach to quantum manipulation, it should not work, yet somehow it does." Sarah smiled grimly. "That's humanity for you. We have a habit of not knowing what's impossible until after we've done it." Below, alarms suddenly blared as energy surged through the test chamber. The prototype weapon, a fusion of Celtri adaptive technology, Aetherian quantum principles, and human innovation, began to pulse with an otherworldly light. "Power signatures are off the charts." Dr. Park's voice carried through the comm system. "The quantum field it's doing something new." The weapon, designed to target the void consciousness's unique energy signature, had developed an unexpected property. Instead of simply disrupting void energy as intended, it seemed to be converting it into something else entirely. "Fascinating." Synthesis pulsed with excitement. "It's not just destroying the void energy in our test samples, it's transforming it into usable power. This shouldn't be possible according to any known physics." Nexus's form flickered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as surprise. The human intuition for connecting seemingly unrelated concepts. It continues to exceed our projections. But not everyone was celebrating. Sarah noticed Captain Miguel Torres, her head of security, watching the proceedings with barely concealed suspicion. He wasn't alone. Many in the military still distrusted their former enemies, especially the Celtri. "Commander," Torres approached her position, keeping his voice low. "We need to discuss the security implications. The Celtri are gaining unprecedented access to our quantum research facilities. If this alliance falls apart—" "I know the risks, Captain," Sarah cut him off, though not unkindly. "But we need to trust the process. The void consciousness isn't just coming for us, it's coming for all of us." A sudden commotion from the test chamber drew their attention. Dr. Park was frantically working at his console, while synthesis pulsed with alarming patterns. "The reaction is cascading," Park shouted. "The quantum field is becoming self-sustaining." Sarah watched as reality itself seemed to bend around the prototype weapon. This was the moment of truth. Either they'd achieved a breakthrough, or they were about to learn a very expensive lesson about the dangers of mixing alien technologies. "Everyone clear the chamber," she ordered, but Park and Synthesis remained at their stations. "Wait," Park called out, his eyes fixed on the readings. "The field is stabilizing, but it's not just stable, it's adaptive. The weapon is learning, evolving, but following human-defined parameters." The light from the prototype dimmed to a steady glow, and the quantum readings settled into a pattern that had Synthesis pulsing with what could only be described as joy. "We've done it," the Celtri scientist communicated. "Created something entirely new. Not just sultry adaptation, not pure Aetherian theory, not only human innovation, but all three working in perfect harmony. Nexus's form brightened. This is more than a weapon. It's proof that our species can truly work together, create together. The void consciousness expects resistance. It expects adaptation. But this it cannot predict. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders, even as a new one settled in its place. They had their prototype, their proof of concept. Now came the hard part: mass production, training, and preparation for a confrontation with an enemy that had devoured entire galaxies. But as she looked at the humans, sultry, and Aetherians working together below, she felt something she hadn't experienced since this crisis began. Hope. Not just for survival, but for something greater. A future where the combined strengths of their species could achieve things none of them could have imagined alone. "Well done, everyone," she announced over the comm. "But remember, this is just the beginning. The real test is still to come." The prototype pulsed in its chamber, a testament to what was possible when ancient enemies became allies, when necessity bred innovation, and when humanity's unique approach to problem-solving was given free rein to challenge the impossible. The joint fleet emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Carina Nebula, a vast armada of human, sultry, and Aetherian vessels united in purpose. From the bridge of the flagship Terra Nova, Fleet Commander Sarah Chen watched as the sensors painted a grim picture of the void corruption spreading through the stellar nursery. Multiple void signatures detected. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his station now augmented with crystalline, sultry technology. The consciousness is feeding on the forming stars. The void entities appeared as tears in reality, their presence distorting both space and the sensors trying to track them. But thanks to their new hybrid technology, they could finally see their enemy clearly. What they saw was terrifying. Energy conversion rates are beyond our initial estimates. Dr. Park's voice came through the command channel. The void entities are accelerating their consumption of matter and energy. At this rate, the entire nebula will be gone in less than a week. The sultry battle coordinator, Victory Through Unity, pulsed with determination. Our adaptive shields are responding well to the void energies. We are ready to engage. All ships, battle formations. Sarah commanded. Remember your training. These entities don't think like we do. They don't think at all in any way we understand. But we've prepared for this. The fleet moved with practiced precision, sultry bioships flowing around human vessels like a school of predatory fish, while Aetherian craft took up positions that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them. The hybrid weapons they all carried pulsed with ready energy. First wave, engage at will, Sarah ordered. Let's show them what this alliance can do. The battle erupted in a display that defied conventional physics. Human quantum torpedoes, enhanced with sultry adaptive technology and Aetherian space-time manipulation, struck the void entities with devastating effect. Where before such attacks would have passed harmlessly through the creatures, now they connected, converting void energy into something the entities couldn't consume. But the enemy was far from helpless. A massive void tendril lashed out, absorbing 3 sultry ships before their shields could adapt. A human cruiser, the Defiant, exploded as void energy corrupted its reactor core. Even an Aetherian vessel, seemingly untouchable in its higher dimensional state, was pulled partially into whatever passed for the void's reality. Pattern shift. Sarah commanded. Execute maneuver Omega-7. The fleet responded as one, ships moving in complex patterns that Dr. Park had designed based on chaos theory and quantum uncertainty. The void entities, used to prey that fought predictably, seemed confused by the constantly changing attack vectors. It's working. Victory Through Unity pulsed excitedly. Their response times are slowing. They cannot predict our movements. But then something changed. The void entities began to merge, forming a singular mass that pulsed with malevolent purpose. The temperature of space around them dropped to near absolute zero as they began to draw in all energy in the region. New void signature detected. Rodriguez's voice carried an edge of panic. Massive quantum disturbance at bearing 047 mark 180. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Through the quantum distortion emerged something that dwarfed even their combined fleet. A void entity of such size and power that it bent light around itself. But this one was different. It moved with purpose, with intelligence. By all that exists, the Aetherian coordinator Nexus manifested on the bridge, its energy form dimmed by the void's presence. That is not just a void entity. That is a fragment of the consciousness itself. The entity's attention focused on their fleet, and Sarah felt a cold that had nothing to do with temperature seep into her bones. In that moment, she understood. This wasn't just a mindless force of destruction. This was something that had chosen to destroy, had consumed galaxies not from hunger, but from some incomprehensible desire to unmake creation itself. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, she ordered, her mind racing through options. Dr. Park, what are we dealing with? The readings are impossible. Park's voice shook slightly. It's not just consuming energy. It's rewriting the quantum structure of space-time itself. Our hybrid weapons might not be enough. Victory through Unity pulsed with urgent patterns. Commander, we're detecting a change in the void energy patterns. They're adapting to our weapons, learning from them. Sarah's blood ran cold. They had counted on the void entities being predictable, mindless in their consumption. But if they could learn, adapt, perhaps even think. New contact. Rodriguez called out. Something's coming through from. Wait, these readings can't be right. It's coming from Earth. The space behind their fleet erupted in a burst of pure quantum energy, and through it came something that had every sensor on the bridge screaming in protest. It was a ship, but unlike anything in their combined fleet. Its hull seemed to shift between states of matter, its very existence a challenge to the laws of physics. This is Director Torres of Earth Defense. A familiar voice came through the comm. Sorry we're late to the party, Commander. But we thought you could use a little insurance policy. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized the implications. While they had been developing their hybrid weapons, Torres and his team had been working on something else entirely, something that might just change the rules of this war completely. The vessel that Torres had brought into battle defied everything Sarah thought she knew about space warfare. Its hull rippled like liquid mercury, quantum energy coursing through patterns that somehow looked both sultry and human in design, yet incorporated impossible geometries that could only have come from Aetherian influence. What exactly am I looking at, Miguel? Sarah demanded, even as her fleet regrouped around the new arrival. We call it the Prometheus. Torres replied, his voice carrying a hint of pride. While you were working on weapons to fight the void, we were working on something to understand it. This ship isn't just a weapon. It's a bridge between realities. The massive void entity pulsed with what seemed like curiosity. Its consumption of the surrounding space temporarily paused. Dr. Park's sensors were going wild as he analyzed the Prometheus. Incredible, he breathed. They've created a quantum probability matrix that exists in multiple states simultaneously. It's not just adapting to the void energy. It's actively manipulating it. The void isn't just consuming our universe, Torres explained. It's trying to reshape it. But thanks to what we learned from both the Exceltri and Aetherians, we finally understand why. The consciousness isn't destroying, it's searching. Victory through Unity pulsed with revelation patterns. Of course, the patterns within patterns. We saw them in our adaptive algorithms, but never understood their significance. Nexus's energy form brightened with understanding. The void consciousness, it's lonely. It seeks others like itself, but its very nature destroys what it touches. A cosmic tragedy play out over billions of years. Sarah watched as the Prometheus moved closer to the void entity, its impossible hull now glowing with patterns that seemed to mirror the void's own distortions. Torres, what are you doing? What humanity does best, he responded, finding a third option. We don't have to destroy the void, and we don't have to let it destroy us. We can communicate with it. The Prometheus's hull suddenly erupted with energy, but instead of attacking, it created a field that encompassed both the ship and the void entity. Within that field, reality itself seemed to pause, creating a space where two incompatible forms of existence could meet. All ships, hold position, Sarah ordered, understanding dawning. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about transcendence. Within the quantum field, something extraordinary happened. The void entity's chaotic energy patterns began to synchronize with the Prometheus's emissions. Through the combined understanding of three civilizations, human intuition, Celtry adaptation, and Aetherian wisdom, they had created a way to bridge the unbridgeable. It's working, Dr. Park reported, his voice filled with awe. The void entity is responding. Its energy patterns are shifting from consumption to communication. The smaller void entities around them began to change as well, their destructive feeding patterns transforming into something new. The very fabric of space-time that they had been destroying began to heal, but not return to its original state. Instead, it evolved into something that could sustain both normal matter and void energy. This is what was missing from our calculations: victory through unity pulsed. Not a weapon to destroy, but a means to transform, to adapt not just ourselves, but reality itself. The consciousness was never our enemy, Nexus added, its energy form pulsing with ancient wisdom. It was a force of nature that needed to be understood, not conquered. Something that humans, with their unique perspective, helped us all to see. Sarah watched as the quantum field expanded, encompassing more of the void entities, transforming the battlefield into something entirely new. The Carina Nebula, which had been on the verge of destruction, now blazed with both normal and void energy, creating patterns of beauty that had never existed before in this universe. We did it. Taurus's voice came through, tired but satisfied. Not by fighting, not by running, but by doing what none of us could have done alone. We changed the rules of the game. As the fleet regrouped and began the process of establishing communication protocols with the transformed void entities, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. They had started as enemies, become reluctant allies, and emerged as something more: pioneers of a new way of existence. The Celtry had learned that adaptation didn't always mean combat. The Aetherians had discovered that ancient wisdom sometimes needed new perspectives. And humanity had proven that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination, but their ability to imagine solutions that no one else could see. Send word to Earth, Sarah commanded, a smile playing at her lips. Tell them that the void isn't empty anymore. And neither are we. The combined fleet hung in space, their ships now projecting fields that helped stabilize the new quantum reality they had created. They had faced the impossible, and instead of destroying it or being destroyed by it, they had transformed it into something wonderful. It wasn't just a victory, it was an evolution, for all of them. And as the transformed void entities began to communicate in earnest, sharing knowledge and perspectives from beyond the boundaries of normal space-time, Sarah knew that this was only the beginning. The universe had changed, and they had changed with it.